Welcome to the Big 12 Deep Dive. I'm your host, Zachary Hyder. Before we get into the podcast, this is my first one doing this, so I'm just going to kind of break down week to week. I'm going to go through all the Big 12 games. I'm going to cover football, basketball once that rolls around. Haven't really decided what I'm going to do yet when it's the off season for both of those, but we will find out eventually. There's a lot that's going on this week in college football. First thing we're going to talk about today is there a disrespect for the Big 12 in the AP poll? Honestly, seems like they do this every year, but this year it seems just more oblivious. Anyone who's paid attention to the first 5, technically 6 weeks of college football would understand that. Big 12 has 4 teams ranked, which is actually kind of surprising a little bit. Texas Tech is at 11, Iowa State's at 14, BYU's at 23, and Arizona State is at 25. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little bit shocked Arizona State jumped back in as fast as they did, but I'm not going to complain. I am going to complain about a few things, though. The first thing that I'm going to complain about, Virginia. I know a lot of people feel differently about this because they just beat Florida State in double overtime, I think it was, 46-38. I'm not saying Virginia should not be ranked, but at the same time, they're 24th, so I am kind of saying that. Why not Utah? Why is Utah not in there over Virginia? I think Utah, sure, they lost to Texas Tech by, 27-10 or something like that? I just don't understand. Virginia getting in, definitely could have been receiving votes this week. But for them to be in the top 25 after just one win over Florida State is kind of... I get it to a point, but it's also just it doesn't make much sense to me at the same time. So, my next complaint that I have several. Vanderbilt moved up 2 spots. They are 5-0. I will give them that. But I don't think they've really played. Looking at their schedule, Charleston, Southern Virginia Tech, who's terrible this year. South Carolina, who they thought was good, but actually turns out like South Carolina might be one of the worst teams in the SEC. Georgia State, Utah State. I don't even know what else to say about that, but I think we're going to find out a lot about Vanderbilt over these next 2, 3, 4 weeks. Because it looks like they got Bama, LSU, Missouri, who's my next complaint, and then Texas. Missouri is my next complaint, like I just said. They're ranked 19th. Congratulations on the 38-point win. 38-point win, 36-point win. I can't remember if it was 44-6 or 42-6, but congratulations on the huge win against UMass. You guys moved up 1 spot. I don't think they should have moved up at all after that. Missouri is a team that I would like to take a look at because they have another home game October 11th against Alabama. This team will have played 6 games at home once that game is played. I don't understand how they're getting so many home games right away, but they are. They won't go on the road until Auburn, which is October 18th. But I don't think they've really proven themselves. Same thing. Their best win is either against Kansas or South Carolina. Kansas kind of looks like, we at the beginning of the year, we thought Kansas was going to be this really, really good team. Now it just got beat by Cincinnati, who I think is actually a pretty darn good team now. But Kansas looks like they're going to be this middle-tier Big 12 team. South Carolina, again, looks like they're probably going to be one of the worst teams in the SEC. So not really understanding Missouri. The last one that I have a complaint about is Texas. Texas, I will say, 14-7 game against Ohio State, which is extremely fair. But their best win is Sam Houston, 55-0. UTEP, 27-10. San Jose State, 38-7. I will say this, Texas' defense looks really, really good. But their offense and Arch Manning, I don't think they're going to be that good in the SEC. I really don't. I think they're going to be middle of the pack. SEC, somewhere around there. where they're just not top of the conference like a lot of people predicted them to be. Yeah, I don't understand that. I actually made rankings on my TikTok page, and I think I had them down to 14. I'm not saying they're not good, but to be, because what are they ranked? I think they're ranked 9th. And they went up one spot after, I don't think they played this week, actually. I think Sam Houston, yeah, that was 2 weeks ago, I think. Which, again, we have teams in the Big 12 who win and stay the same, like Iowa State, or drop down if they win. So I just don't understand it. So that is enough of the AP poll. We're gonna get into some week 6 predictions for the second segment. Well, week 6 is here in the Big 12. Doesn't look like we have too many good-looking games. I'll go through a quick breakdown of who is playing who this week. We've got West Virginia at BYU, 14th ranked Iowa State at Cincinnati, Kansas State at Baylor, Oklahoma State at Arizona, 11th ranked Texas Tech at Houston, Colorado at TCU, and Kansas at UCF. We're just going to go through a few things about each of these games, basically just giving my prediction on these. First one we're going to look at is West Virginia at BYU. BYU is favored by 19. This is on a Friday night at BYU. BYU had a close call against Colorado. I think at one point that game, if I remember right, was 14-0 Colorado. I'm not saying West Virginia has a chance in this game at all. West Virginia looks horrible this year, but BYU favored by 19. My prediction, I think that's a little too low, to be completely honest. I think BYU is going to remember the first quarter against Colorado, and I think they're going to get up big really fast in this game. I look for BYU to win by at least 3 touchdowns against a struggling West Virginia team. Iowa State and Cincinnati, we're going to talk about this one a little bit more in a little bit, because I am an Iowa State fan, if you can't tell by my shirt. So I will be having some bias on Iowa State on this show, but Iowa State and Cincinnati. Cincinnati's favored by 2. This is an 11 o'clock kickoff on Saturday. I don't want to get into this too much just because I'm going to cover this more in just a sec. Yeah, 2 points, Cincinnati favored. I did see this at one point. It was 3, I believe, so they did move it down a little bit. I feel like this could be a coin flip game, honestly. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to get into a little bit more of that. So I'm going to move on to the next one. Kansas State at Baylor. Baylor's favored by 7. Baylor gives me a weird vibe because we've seen their quarterback. Oh gosh, what's his name? I can't think of their quarterback's name right now. Whatever his name is. He hasn't looked as good as people thought he was going to. But Kansas State, are they back? Are they back to being somewhat decent again? Because we know they've struggled early on in this season. I do kind of look for Baylor to get about a 10-point win in this game, just because I think K-State's defense may not be up to the task to taking on Baylor's running backs. I think is going to be a key in that game. Oklahoma State at Arizona. Arizona's favored by 21. We just saw Arizona lose to Iowa State 14-39. Honestly, as an Iowa State fan, I thought Arizona played okay in that game against us. I do think this is a pretty accurate favoring by 21. Oklahoma State lost to Baylor 37-20, I think, if I remember right, last Saturday. But I think again, I think Arizona's better than Baylor right now. So I think Arizona's going to come away with definitely a 3-touchdown win, possibly more. Texas Tech at Houston. Texas Tech favored by 11. This is a game that I had circled until Saturday when Houston got into their overtime win against Oregon State. Obviously, huge win for Houston to get out of there with the W against a winless team. I thought this is going to be a really close game until that Houston-Oregon State game. I think Texas Tech is probably going to handle Houston pretty easily. Could be another road like 17 or 21-point win for Texas Tech. I look for Texas Tech to cover that spread in that game. Colorado at TCU. TCU's favored by 14. Colorado feels like we're still trying to, obviously they had a close game against BYU, like we were just talking about, 3-point loss to BYU. But going to TCU, I don't see them having any chance. I just don't. I hate to say it. I love Primetime. Great coach, great guy. Well, but I don't see Colorado having any chance against TCU in this one. I think this is a night game, but I'm not 100% sure, and my computer is tweaking out right now, so I can't even look. Last one, Kansas at UCF. Kansas is favored by 6. I thought this was kind of surprising, but I would take Kansas to win by 10, maybe 13, 14. UCF, it looks like they're coming along a little bit. Trying to think of who they just played over this Saturday. I cannot remember off the top of my head, though. Kansas obviously coming off a loss, though, against Cincinnati at home, so I think Kansas is going to get a big win on the road at UCF. Next, we're going to talk about Iowa State and Cincinnati. This is the best game of the week, in my opinion. So let's go to that. Best game of the week, I'm going to be doing this every time that I talk for previews as well. I'm going to cover what I think is possibly the biggest matchup of the week. This week is Iowa State at Cincinnati. I may or may not also have another breakdown video later in the week for this game where it's just that separately, but not 100% sure yet. Cincinnati on Saturday, Brennan Sorsby looks pretty solid, I'm not going to lie. As an Iowa State fan, I'm pretty nervous for this game. Evan Pryor, the running back, had 6 carries and 90 yards, which is an unbelievable stat. And Cincinnati had 215 total yards rushing, which is not ideal if you're Iowa State, especially with possibly looks like a depleted defense with some injuries, with some question marks for this Saturday. Cyrus Allen, their wide receiver, had 128 yards. So I think this really could be a coin flip game. I think Cincinnati with Brennan Sorsby. Iowa State does not do good with mobile quarterbacks that are fast and can scramble. And we saw this last year when Cincinnati came to Ames. Iowa State obviously won that game, but boy, going up against Sorsby when he was running was not ideal for Iowa State. Injury report as of right now for Cincinnati. Joe Royer, the tight end, left halfway through the game. He is expected to play, though, this Saturday. And then defensive tackle Dante Corleone. Hopefully I'm not butchering his last name. He was out last week. He is listed as questionable for Saturday. For Iowa State, Rocco Becht went 14 out of 20 and 243 yards. As an Iowa State fan, seeing what Rocco's done in the past, that was not... it was a good game from Rocco, but definitely not one of his best. Which is interesting because we had a lot of breakout guys, specifically Chase Sowell, whom I'm about to talk about a little bit. Carson Hansen was the leading rusher for 63 yards and 19 carries. Rocco Becht had negative 10 yards with 9 rushes, which is impressive. Let's see here. Iowa State only had 111 total yards rushing, which is very interesting. I think a lot of that is just because of the way that Arizona plays defense, just because they get downhill so fast. So that's definitely something to look out for on Saturday. Chase Sowell, who I just mentioned, Sowell, 146 yards. Great. I think it was one of the first plays of the game when we had that huge shot down to Chase Sowell. He got tackled at like the 1 or like slid through the end zone, landed at the 1, slid through the end zone. Chase has arrived at Iowa State apparently, finally. So that'll be a huge key for Iowa State. injuries for Iowa State. Breaking news about 30 minutes ago. Jontez Williams has been listed as out for the rest of the year, which is a huge concern of mine and the rest of the Iowa State fans. Jeremiah Cooper's out. We already knew that. Dominic Orange, haven't seen any updates on him unless they released something recently within the last 10 minutes. But from what I've seen, I hope he's going to play Saturday. Given when he went out, he came back in. He left for a little bit, came back in, got hurt again. So I'll be interested to see updates on that. Same with Cummings Coleman. I think he came out. No, it was Tashawn James that came out with the sling. That's the one that probably looks like he's probably going to be out as well. So our, defense depleted again. We dealt with this last year with a lot of our linebackers. We were down to walk-ons playing for us on defense for linebacker position. So yeah, keys to the game that I have for Iowa State, kind of going along with the defensive injury. You got to control the tempo, have possession of the ball. You don't want Cincinnati to have, 40 minutes. They've got the ball. We've only got the ball for 20 minutes. That could end up being a blowout. I personally think it could be with our defense definitely being not as strong as it should be with injuries. For Cincinnati, I was just saying this Sorsby run game is going to be huge, I think. Again, they did it to us last year. He's great runner. He's very quick. He's got some nice moves on him. In him, you can get around defenders and juke past them. And shot plays for Cincinnati. This is also going along with Iowa State's depleted defense. They're going to be taking shots at our, corners who haven't played a lot. But Trey Bell for Iowa State, he's going to be a big key on the defensive side in this game as well. Our final segment is coming next, and I'm going to be talking about everyone who has looked the best this past week. So who has looked the best week to week, specifically last week, I guess. Obviously, I'm an Iowa State fan. I'm going to pick Iowa State. Looked very dominant against Arizona. Obviously, finally looks like their offense, their wide receivers are coming along. BYU should not have put them for this one. I don't know why. I'm going to take that back. BYU, in my opinion, they looked good, but I don't think they looked like they could play in the Big 12 championship game right now. Texas Tech, obviously, I think your two front runners in this conference right now are definitely, hands down, Iowa State and Texas Tech, looking by far the best two teams. Utah, obviously, struggled against Texas Tech, lost that one at home. But the injury with Devin Dampier kind of just gives me, if he really was hurt in that game and, he wasn't 100%, well, then that makes sense why he did not look the best. It makes sense why Utah did not look the best in that one. Trying to see, I think Utah is off this week. Yes, they are off this week. So that's obviously a much-needed bye week for Utah, considering Devin Dampier. I'm not sure what it is that's wrong with him. I guess I should have looked a little bit more into that. But I still think Utah, and I was kind of shocked that they dropped completely out of the top 25 just because of their loss to Texas Tech. Yes, it was a big loss, but I think that just shows you that Texas Tech is the best team in the Big 12 right now. By far. Well, not by far, is Iowa State, but no, Utah definitely, I think, still has a shot at the title game. Obviously, it'll depend on, if it's a battle between Texas Tech and Utah getting into the conference championship. Obviously, they're going to need Texas Tech to lose at least one or two. But I think Utah still looks like a pretty solid team. I put Cincinnati just because of their win against Kansas again. That was unbelievable. I only watched the last 10-15 minutes of that game. But from what I did see again, Cincinnati looked like a really complete team. They've got some ball players for sure. And again, as an Iowa State fan, kind of worried for this Saturday. I think if Cincinnati played Nebraska again, I think Cincinnati would be 4-0 and probably ranked right now. I think that 3-point loss to Nebraska is the only thing keeping them out of the top 25, in my personal opinion. Obviously, if they win this weekend, they probably will be ranked, just because Iowa State's ranked. And Cincinnati, I mean, looking at their schedule right now, they don't have too many super tough games. They go on the road to Utah. They play home against BYU and at TCU, but I mean, and obviously this Saturday, but I mean, if you win 2 out of those 2 games, I mean, you're sitting at 9-3, 2 losses in the conference. I mean, Cincinnati, I think, could really be a dark horse, and I'm not just saying that because they're playing Iowa State. I'm not trying to make Iowa State look better, but I seriously, like, Cincinnati to me, again, watching them play for the 15 minutes that I did last Saturday, and then I also watched their game against Nebraska. They look like seriously like a dark horse team in the Big 12. They could definitely make some noise. I think last year they did pretty solid too. I know if they beat Arizona State, who obviously won the conference championship game. But no, I think Cincinnati could definitely make a shot. Yeah, definitely has a shot. Again, well, I think this weekend's going to be another good finding out more of who you are for both Cincinnati and Iowa State, win or loss for both teams. So it'll be really interesting to see that game. Again, I may or may not make another separate video breaking that game down. I might do that every week for the biggest games, but I'm also thinking maybe I'm just going to break down the Iowa State games a little bit more just because I am an Iowa State fan. So again, I'm going to have a little bit more bias on Iowa State on this podcast. Hopefully not too much to where it turns someone to not liking this and unsubscribing or something. But yeah, so since this is my first one, let me know what you guys want me to cover in the future. Let me know what you guys want me to report more of, less of. Hopefully it's not less of Iowa State. I probably will not listen to that. That's probably about the only thing that I won't listen to. But yeah, that is it for this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in to the first one. Hope you guys have a great week. Peace out.
Thanks for listening to the Big 12 Deep Dive, the podcast where we break down everything Big 12 football and basketball.